tonight is about city council goals and where the city is going, and really this is kind of a recap of the past year with the city. About this time last year, the city council met in a workshop. We had a new mayor, new council members, a new city manager, and a lot of different discussions that needed to occur about the direction that the city needed to go. And through that workshop, we developed a pretty long priority list. And we met again in February to try to fine-tune that into a workable document and direction for staff. A lot of the things were easily done. A lot of things rose to the top that we could easily address immediately. But other things require a little bit longer planning and some budget dollars. And so what we found is that this process gave the staff and myself in particular clear direction on what the council wanted to see as we moved forward and tried to address the needs of the community. And what I'll point out is in that poll, it showed there are several different options that we can take with budget dollars. And it's easy to say, well, I want another police officer, or we want 2 code enforcement officers. And we could put the money towards that. We can put 2 code enforcement officers in cars and they can drive around. But to what end? And so the process that we went through tried to identify, instead of what specifically do you want, what do you want to try to achieve? And I think the council did a very good job of formulating ideas that really told us, what do you want to see and where does this community need to go? And then it allowed staff to go back and strategize and find what it'll take. And is it more people? Is it shifting a program? Is it totally changing the direction of the way we've been doing things for the past 5 or 10 years? So from my point of view, like I said, it was a great process, and I think the staff was able to really rather gather around these goals and really push us forward as a community. So tonight we're just going to kind of go through the 10 goals that were laid out for us. There's a lot to these. From each of these priorities, there's probably 5 or 6 goal statements, and you'll see those in a second. But this is what the final document looked like. It's available on our website if you want to review it more closely. But it's not all encompassing of what needed to be done. But these were the areas that the council came together and discussed and felt these were the immediate areas we needed to address. And we spent the last 12 months working towards all of these goals. So as you would imagine, public safety was the top priority of the city council. The main feeling of our council is that they want our residents to feel safe. That was the underlying message that we got. And as part of that, they looked at different ways that we can try to make residents feel safe. And Crime Watch and community policing were two themes of these goals. And we've had a Crime Watch program, but the council felt we could do better. And the idea is to get out there and train more individuals to head up crime watches. And I'm happy to say that probably in the last 12 months, we've started at least 6 brand new crime watch groups. We probably have 4 or 5 more in the process of being started. So what we found is we're running our community police officers kind of ragged. They're going to crime watch meetings all the time, which is a good thing. They needed to be busy, and we're out there, but the job's not done. This is an ongoing program, but it's an underlying theme of where we want to take our police department. We can put more police officers on the street, but we can't be everywhere. And Crime Watch is a really good tool to help neighbors empower themselves and protect their neighborhoods and protect their property. One of the other overarching themes of our goal setting was making the most efficient use of our staffing. Over the years, we have built our police department to, and it's a fine department. Don't let me let anybody take anything that we had problems. But we could all, in my view, we can always do better. And what Chief Cato brought was an analysis of where our officers are placed. And one of the main things in Chief Cato's budget was he hired more civilians to take the place of some of the duties that police officers were doing. So instead of putting a police officer who has a badge and a gun behind a desk analyzing crime data, we're going to hire crime analysts, civilians who can crunch those numbers and then hand those off to the experts, and they will deploy differently. They'll assign resources differently. And so we're making the best use of our staffing. And the main thing was by the time we hire all of our new civilian employees, Chief, about 2,000 patrol hours we'll be adding. I'm sorry, about 10,000 patrol hours. Probably by the end of this year that we will have on the street that we did not have or do not have at this time. The other part of that is using technology. There's a lot of tools out there that we can use to make our community safer. There are cameras, there are license plate readers, and there's just computer software. And we were very aggressive this year with our seizure funds and through our budget to acquire the technology to back our police officers up and give them every tool at their disposal to go out and make our neighborhoods safer. Training non-public safety employees, and this was one that you kind of think is a natural for an organization that everybody should know what criminal activity is, but we have about 300 employees in our field services, parks and recreation, code inspectors, building inspectors who are out there on a daily basis. Who are extra eyes and ears. So beginning in January, we're going through some intensive training, utilizing our police officers to give our field employees some skills to go out there and be those extra eyes that we need. And if they, a solid waste employee is in a neighborhood at least 3 times a week. And so they pretty much know what's right and what's wrong in a neighborhood. And so we want to make sure that they're trained to look for those problems or something that's different and feel comfortable calling it in. And what we'll always tell them is that it's better to be wrong and call in than not call in at all. So that's something that we're going to empower all of our staff in. And that just, again, adds more patrol time to our neighborhoods. And then the last of the top priorities was improving and expanding community policing and crime watch programs and increase the visibility. Community policing is a philosophy, and it's a culture change or a culture in the police department. We do community policing, but as Chief Cato has said before, it's just part of the picture, and it can always be done better. And so Chief is working to instill that idea in all officers, that it's okay to go out into a neighborhood and reach out to the kids that are playing basketball, that it's okay to get out of your car and go knock on a door and check in on people. And that's what we feel, those personal touches, if all of our officers have that ingrained in them, that, again, those neighbors in that might be scared will feel a little bit more comfortable when there's a police officer outside of their car and not just driving down the street. I'm not going to go through each and every goal. That we would be here all night, but I will hit some of the other highlights. We'll be you'll be seeing some more robust communications from the city, and especially from the police department. We have a series of helpful videos and other communication platforms. That's what we're going to reach out and try to educate the public on taking care of yourself. Chief Cato, and I'll put in a plug for him, next Monday we'll be doing a quarterly police report, and he will be going into some of the statistics. And what the statistics show is we have a lot of property crime here in Mesquite, and it's shoplifting and car thefts. But most of those car thefts are from cars that are unlocked. People leave their cell phone, leave their purse in their car unlocked, and somebody goes by, sees it, just lifts the door and takes it. And so, again, it's one of those common sense things. We really have to educate our public and say, take anything out of your car, lock it up, or hide it in the trunk when if you're going to leave something in your car. The other top priority that the council had was our neighborhood appearance and condition. And it's something we've talked a lot about this year. We've even had a town hall or two about it. And basically, we addressed this one initially by just reorganizing the way we do things. We created a new department called Neighborhood Services, and we put a director with the primary responsibility of overseeing code enforcement. And we've also, with that, Raymond Rivas has stripped down code enforcement, really looked at what changes could be made, and really implemented not only a new culture in code enforcement, but has really addressed how they do their job. Instead of dividing up the city over by the number of houses and everybody has the same number of homes, we've looked at where our problem areas are, and we've put reduced the number of houses that a code enforcement officer has if there are a lot of problems there. So they have more time to go after the problem areas. Somebody has a few more houses in areas that we don't have a lot of violations. And that's just part of it. One of the other initiatives that we created was our T25 program, and we've talked about it quite a bit as well. But out of that, we found several different strategies on becoming more aggressive. And that was a basic message I got, is that we were too nice for the repeat offenders. We kept giving them too many opportunities. And Raymond's staff knows that if we continue to write notice after notice or ticket after ticket, there is no leeway, there is no extra time. And that's really one of the things that we found is we give too many second chances to people. But also with T25, we've also found that our vacant properties are a big problem. We spend a lot of time taking care of homes or commercial buildings that are vacant. So through our budget process, we were able to put a new position in that's going to be one person is going to be in charge of cataloging and working with the owners of these vacant properties to ensure that they're being maintained. And we're not going to take up our code enforcement officers' time. That if they don't want to maintain their property, we'll just hire a contractor and they can just pay for it. And it's a lot more than what they're paying for now. And we feel that that's an aggressive stance to take with somebody that just doesn't live here, doesn't drive by that piece of property, doesn't have to look at it like we do every single day. One of the success stories I just wanted to point out with T25 was this house on Coryell. For several years, it sat vacant. It was one of those houses that got foreclosed on back in the last decade, and it just sat there. Vandals would get into the backyard, they'd knock down the fence, they'd get inside, they'd spray paint on the inside of the walls. The pool filled up with nasty water, became a mosquito breeding ground. And if you can imagine living next door to this, it was just a constant problem. And we spent an inordinate amount of time just going through the same process. We'd write a notice, we'd write a citation, we'd send a contractor out. Same thing over and over again for several years. So what we decided was the same process isn't working. We're not affecting change in this neighborhood. So what we did on this one is we got the attention of the bank. And there was a bank and they had a management company. Management company wasn't working. The bank wasn't responsive. At some point we wrote enough citations and made the right phone calls and went through the right person with just a little bit of extra help. And we got somebody who realized that this was going to be a problem for them if we continued to build up liens on the property. And so we had all of a sudden we saw a dramatic change. Somebody moved in and started renovating the inside. They totally gutted the kitchen, most of the structure, rebuilt the pool, landscaped, and put the house up for sale. And just a couple months ago, the house sold, and it sold for a pretty good price in that neighborhood. And so not only did we get rid of a problem house, we helped the home values of the neighbors who were probably sitting there wondering how low their housing values had dropped with that junk house next door. Job creation is a big concern, and because it affects everybody in the community, not just those of us who work, but for our children, and because we want a vibrant economy, and we want the city to continue to grow. And so one of the initiatives that we've just started is called the BRE Task Force. And those of you who know me know I demand catchy names. Well, that's not the catchy name. That's just the working title. BRE stands for Business Retention and Expansion. And what's new about this, and we've always done business retention and expansion, but we've never coordinated that with other entities that can help our industrial and commercial communities. So we've partnered with Eastfield College, Mesquite ISD, Texas Workforce Commission, and the Chamber of Commerce. And now as a group, we are developing strategies that we can go to specific businesses. We can go to a large industrial user who is having trouble finding a good workforce and put them in touch with Eastfield College to develop specific training courses. We can work with a new business coming in that is having trouble hiring people and go through Texas Workforce Commission, and they can set up a special hiring process and do some job training through their programs. All of these things exist, and we've used them piecemeal. Now we are all coming together, and we're strategizing and going in with a good, solid plan. Downtown is one of those topics that we've heard about for many years, and the council felt that there's only so much the city can do, and so this was a high priority. But it's not one of those things that it's just going to be a city initiative. This is going to take participation from the business owners in downtown, and there's going to have to be some strong decisions made down the road on how much does the city spend on redeveloping our downtown, or we have not seen the market catch up in that area. So something has to move that. But if I asked everybody in this room, what is your vision for downtown, we'll probably come up with 4 or 5 different ideas. And so what we're doing is we're going through a visioning process. There have been different exercises over the past 20 years to try to come up with a vision for downtown. But in all cases, those have aged, and now we have a new direction that we probably need to go. So over the next 4 or 5 months, we're going to bring a group in, and they're going to meet to try to figure out what do we want downtown to be. And then out of that, they will come up with some strategies on what are those steps to get us, what's that path look like to get to a downtown that is whatever we want it to be. And once we get there, and once we have those strategies, then the city can come in and say, what is our role? Is it to provide funding for to start up businesses? Is it to help the property owners transition those buildings so they can have newer tenants? Those are the types of things that we have to decide. But the first step is gathering people from this community to decide what they want their downtown to be. You don't want just city staff figuring this out. You don't want just council members figuring this out. We need a collective group to come down and figure out what that direction is. And a very similar story with shopping center revitalization. If you drive around town, you see lots of vacant storefronts or shopping centers that were once vibrant that maybe only have 1 or 2 stores in them. And these are areas that we're going to have to work with the property owner, come up with strategies, figure out what that can turn into. And then at that point, what's the city's role in that redevelopment? If we can facilitate a new development coming in there, that's one role we can play. Or if we feel that it has some viability as a retail center, maybe we can just help with helping fix up the facade. A good example of one thing we've done is the old Albertsons at Galloway and US 80. That is now two stores, a DD's and now El Rio Grande Market, which has expanded the footprint of that building. Originally they were not, but they've come back in and decided they needed more space. And so not only do we have new shops and new economic activity there, we also have an aging shopping center that was an eyesore for almost 12 years, painted, redeveloped, and something that we're kind of happy to have on that corner. I-20 corridor, this is one of the longest range plans that we have. We see development starting to occur down on I-20. We have annexed property several years ago in preparation for what's coming. Right now we are investing planning and infrastructure and those land use planning. Hopefully we'll have an identity created and something we can begin to market to developers, whether that's housing, whether that's retail. We need to figure that out. And again, a similar process. We're going to gather stakeholders and go through a visioning process to figure out what our community's vision is for I-20, and then what are those steps to implement it. Small business retention, again, that's a segment of economic development, but the council had a desire to really focus on the small business. If you look around town, majority of our businesses are small businesses, 5 to 50 employees, and there are a lot of unique stories out there. So if you recall last year during Small Business Week, our communications department went out. We featured 3 businesses, all with unique stories. And I venture to say there's probably 100 of those stories. But those stories don't always happen, and they're not always successful. And so we want to make sure that we're providing those small businesses the tools to be successful. And the main thing, and one of my concerns, is to make sure that the city of Mesquite is not an impediment to those businesses growing, whether it's our development regulations, whether it's just helping out a small business owner that needs to expand their restroom, making sure that we're walking them through that process. Sharing our story, this is one that y'all are experiencing one tonight. This is us sharing our story. The town hall formats, just another way to engage our citizens. If you've seen our council connection, something on Nextdoor, Facebook, Twitter, we hope to be on every platform. We want to be everywhere to try to reach out and connect with people. As anytime something new comes out, we want to be part of it, but we have to remember that there are still people who get their information from the newsletter and the water bill. So as technology expands, we have to expand with it. But from video to print to different messaging that we can get out to inform people of what's going on and engage with them. And later tonight, you'll see one of those things that kind of the next part of sharing our story. This is just an example, and I will point out this is our new one. This is how to get in touch with people in the city. So if you have a question or a concern, don't wait for a town hall meeting. Don't wait for a council meeting. Use these numbers. This is the way to get into direct contact with the city, and also gives you an idea of all the different platforms that we're on. Minority citizen involvement. I will, just to be honest, this is one that's going to be our most difficult challenge. We have a changing community, and lots of different cultures and ethnicities, and reaching all of those is going to be a challenge. Some of those segments of the community are not engaged, do not want to be engaged. But we still need to serve them and reach them and educate them on the services that we provide. But also, how do we reach out to that segment and get them involved and be part of our process to get their input, get them to council meetings, get them to town hall meetings. And we have a few ideas, and this is one of those. There's not a lot of budget dollars to it, but it's going to take some strategies from the staff and from the council to really figure out what's the best way to go about it. Because we can go out and say, well, we're going to go to this church over here, the Spanish church, and we're going to reach out to that group, and we may collect 4 or 5 people, but that's not sustainable. That's not a long-term solution, and that really doesn't achieve what we really want, which is a very active residential population from all ethnicities being involved in their government. And the final goal was infrastructure maintenance. When we developed these goals, we were just completing our street bond program. We had just passed it. We were just getting ready to start phase 1 of the residential streets. And so it was still top on council's minds. But we didn't want to stop with just that program. We realized that was just a small part of the problem in the community. If you drove here, you probably hit a pothole or went over a newly patched area, especially on Beltline. Seems like we've been on Beltline for about 6 months trying to fix all the damage from the drought and then the after effects of the rain that further moved our streets. So what Public Works has been assigned to do is to really get a good handle on the breadth of the problem. There's a lot of streets out there. We can't rebuild them all. We are going to have to step up our maintenance techniques. What is it going to take to maintain and get up to a point where we consider ourselves caught up? And what is that? More street crews? Is that going out and hiring contractors? We've set aside some budget money this year for some overlays. We're going to have to get used to the ideas that an overlaid street is part of the life cycle of a street. Instead of rebuilding, let's overlay it for 10, 15 years. Make sure we can maintain it and keep it smooth just until we have the ability to totally replace it. And one of the good things about Mesquite is we've got plenty of roads. We've got plenty of access to everything. One of the bad parts about Mesquite is all of those miles have to be maintained, and it costs each and every one of you your tax dollars. We've got to do a better job with it, and I'll be the first one to admit that. So as we look forward, where do we go from here? Like I said, this was a good exercise for the city staff. It gave us clear direction, and we want to keep it going. In a few weeks, the city council is going to meet again in a workshop and really kind of give themselves and the city staff a grade on how we addressed each of these goals. What we hope to accomplish is to fine-tune anything that we're missing that we may have gotten wrong. If there is something that was missing in the original version of these goals, what can we add? I will say that, again, this was not all-encompassing of everything in the city, but these are the priorities that the council wants us to work on. I'm hopeful that they'll understand that we can only do so much with the staff we have. So, Mr. Casper, Mr. Noche, keep the additions short, please. But one of the things that I need to do as city manager is align our organization with these goals and continue to change the culture. We have a lot of people who've worked here for a long time, and not that we're set in our ways, but there are always opportunities to change. And so the direction I'm giving our staff is that we will be a data-driven organization. We are going to measure ourselves against these goals. We are going to collect as much information as we can, and that's how we're going to measure our success. Not what we feel like, or if the council's says gives us a thumbs up. That's really not the information we need. We need to be looking at the metrics and figuring out where we really need to put our efforts. But we also need to provide better customer service, and we will be an organization that provides superior customer service. We are going to train, and we're going to continue to train. We're going to retrain and do some more training. because we can provide great customer service 95% of the time, but that 5% is the one that hurts us every time, and that's what we're graded on, is that bad experience. And then finally, we're going to seek constant improvement, not just in our employees, but through our programs. We are going to evaluate every year what we do, how well we're doing it, and make improvements. And we're also going to evaluate services. We're going to look at different opportunities to go back. There's several programs that have been in place for over a decade. And y'all will readily agree with me, I hope, that our community is different than it was 10 years ago. And so our service delivery needs to adjust. And just like with code enforcement, the way we did it 10 years ago is not the way we need to be doing it now. And so we're going to go through program by program to ensure that all of our programs are meeting citizens' expectations. Sure. Sure.
Could you do like an elevator version speech about how the budget process has changed? Because I think that ties into that last point you made.
Certainly. With the budget process this year, we were able to start much earlier because in February we had these goals, and we were able to begin briefing council from February to July, and on different strategies. So by the time we got to the decision points, we weren't having to educate council. We were having to have good discussions on how those dollars are spent. And with we were able to provide different options based on these goals. So we knew we couldn't fund everything, so the council was able to pick and choose on where we could put some money here, put some money there. And I will say that with our current budget, we hit a lot of different things, and we moved the mark in quite a few areas. Hopefully that.
I was kind of referring back to the presentation that Ted made a couple weeks ago on just how the overall overview, the vision of the budget.
Oh, okay. In the past, the staff has presented their ideas taken from council. With these goals, we are going to begin developing performance measures, and these performance measures will be tied directly to these goals. And so as the council looks at spending dollars, they're going to be able to see what those measurements are. They are going to decide what success looks like when it comes to community policing, what success looks like in neighborhood appearance. And we'll develop those measures. We'll figure out the way to present that, and then the council can decide if, and we use it as a dashboard. And basically, where is that needle? And is the needle on our goal, or is it behind, or is it in front? Do we need to move our goal and push it forward? So, are we ready? Oh, there we go. Just to help me out, we're doing some citizen service requests. So if you're participating, have you contacted the city for a service request? Those of you who are online have probably already answered it. Anybody doing the text? Okay. I think most people have contacted the city with a service request. So the next question. Oh. Everybody done changing your answer? All right. All right. How would you rate the level of customer service that you received from the city? All right. Is that about everybody? Feedback is very important to us. If you haven't heard, yesterday we launched a citizen survey on these goals and on some customer service issues. If you haven't filled it out yet, please visit our website. It's a very quick survey, and we'll be using that feedback to kind of use it when we meet in December with the City Council to kind of do a kind of what I'm calling them scorecards. The staff is going to score where we're at on the goals. council's going to score, and then we want the citizens score as well. And we'll combine all of those grades and kind of give ourselves an idea of what we've achieved. And when it comes down to it, that's how I'm going to change the culture in our organization. I need your feedback on how well we're doing and where our customer service is. If we can make those improvements and point out where training needs to be held, that will help me improve where we're going throughout. So the last thing, and I'm sorry, we have a couple of computers. If you need some help on the internet or you just would like to fill it out tonight, we have some computers set aside up here if you'd like to complete the survey following the town hall meeting. So feel free to get your survey in now. Going back to the contact us, this is another way that there's a lot of these opportunities put you into our citizen response system. And it's very important for us, if you can, to use those systems. I know it's easy to call the city manager's office or call someone directly to try to resolve your problem. What I would ask is to give us a chance so I can see if our systems are working. We have processes, and anytime we bypass those processes, we don't really get a good view of how well we're doing. So if you can, feel free to use this, but as always, city manager's number, I'll give you my card. Always feel free to call us directly if there's a problem that you need taken care of. Moving forward, over in the next year, we have several town hall meetings coming up. I hope that you can make those out. We'll try to get the word out early enough so everyone can participate. The first one I'll make a plug for is sanitation services. This is one of those programs that hasn't really been touched since probably around 2000. We changed our solid waste ordinance about 16 years ago. Due to some problems we're seeing with appearance in neighborhoods, we feel that there might need to be some revisions. So that town hall will basically be our first input session on what the residents feel about their solid waste services. And then the rest we'll promote later on. But if you can, please give us your feedback on solid waste and sanitation. And I know I went through fast. I didn't see hands come up. Are there any questions? Anybody? Did we go through anything too fast? Barbara?
I was with the Code Ambassador Program. Can you tell us if there are any results of that? How is it helping the current, employee inspectors and so forth?
We've had very good results from the Code Ambassador Program. That's extra eyes for our code enforcement officers. They're going out. They are issuing notices, and the response rate, I believe, is in around between 80 and 90%. On the first notice. So something's been seen and it's being taken care of. Further into the process, we have to involve the code enforcement officers. So those numbers we'd like to kind of reduce those, but again, it's extra eyes and ears. And again, a code enforcement officer driving through a neighborhood sees the same thing over and over again. They will sometimes miss things. Having an extra pair of eyes or being out there on different days, a lot of them are out there on weekends, so they're seeing some of the problems that don't occur during the week. So I'm very pleased with the program so far. We'll be having, if you're not a code ambassador and would like to be part of it, we'll have another program starting up this spring. So Barbara, I know you need something else to do. So yes, ma'am.
The survey you're talking about, can you access it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it's just go to the city's main page and there's a link to the citizen survey off the main page.
I just have a comment. Because where I live, which is only 20 years old, which is not that old in Mesquite, the neighborhood is awful. And I just feel I've made some complaints against my neighbor, and the reason their house looks as bad as it does is they are, house poor. So my impression is that they're getting these citations, and they don't have the money to paint their house or make the improvements. They don't have the money, they're not paying the tickets. And so I just kind of feel like it's useless. I don't feel like anything's happening.
There's a point, and that is kind of one of those areas that we don't run into that often. A lot of the times we can address the environmental code problems, and we can issue enough citations, and we can go out there and take care of them. Fixing the building is one of those areas that it will be a challenge for us, the paint and the building conditions. But the main thing is we need to stay on top of them. We can't just have the attitude, well, there's nothing we can do, so we're going to stop writing the tickets. And we're going to give up. We're going to still be out there. We've got programs in place through community volunteers. We have our Addressing Mesquite Day. We have our home program. There are opportunities where we can send volunteers if somebody is truly in need, and we can come out there and try to address some of that. There are some problems that are just too big, and that we will have to take a different approach. And there are legal matters that we can go into. It's just those are also, it's kind of hard to do that to somebody who owns a home and is living there and is doing the best they can. So we try to walk a fine line there. We know we kind of have an idea of who tries and who just could care less. And those are the ones that if you're trying, we try to help in any way possible. But don't give up. Keep reporting it. I saw another hand back there. Yes, sir.
I think her problem is part of what I do those groups to get out of the problem. It's not just this right now. I think it's all over the city and school. We're getting so much Section 8 people out there. I get up every morning and walk my dog, and I can almost tell you past the house what the Section 8 homes are. The only time they mow their yard or clean up their yard is when the city comes by and to do it. Is there something that they can do to the owner of these houses to make them get their tenants to clean up their place?
We are hamstrung a little bit with, and I'll just lump all rental property. It's rental. It's just a different way of paying for it. So all rental property, not all. A lot of rental property has those same problems, and where we need to, and we're hamstrung a little bit by our technology right now. Beginning in May, we'll have some new technology that allow us to get in touch with the homeowner directly when there's a problem. Not the first time, not the second time, but if there are continued problems, instead of going after the occupant, we're going to start holding those homeowners accountable. They are running a business out of that house. That is a business. And just like any other business owner, they need to take care of their property. Through the T25 process, we've encountered several landlords. They live in really nice houses up in Allen and Frisco, and they're never here to see what the property looks like that you see every day when you walk by. And so we're getting their attention pretty quickly by issuing them citations for conditions. So yes, you're exactly right. We need to hold the homeowner responsible, especially when it's a rental property.
So let me ask you, because I mean, when you look at just the way that this area, Dallas area, is developing, I feel like Mesquite and Garland and Gulf Springs is just turning into the area where if you want to get into real estate, you want to make a profit, this is where you need to buy a home because you can rent it out. So do you have addresses of all the owners of all these rentals, and is there a mechanism in place for you all to make sure at least once a year that those addresses are identifiable?
Our main access is through the county property records, and that's who we use now. Our new system will allow us to merge some of that data. Right now we have to go and grab it in different ways. But yes, and as a rental, we have a rental inspection program. That gets anytime there's a water change, anytime somebody starts a new water bill, we are able to get in there and we can inspect and make sure the house is brought up to certain building standards. And then if it's on the housing voucher program or Section 8, it has another layer of inspections that go on it as well. So we do our best to make sure once they move in that the house is in a certain condition. Depends on how long that tenant's in there. And that's another program that's about 10 years old. We need to look at strengthening our rental inspection program. There are some loopholes that we need to tighten up. Yes, ma'am.
In regards to that, I was told that there's no way you can tell if the house is Section 8. There's no data or public record you can look at, is there?
I don't know. I'm going to look at Ms. Bradley back there. It is not public record per se with other agencies. City of Dallas Housing has voucher holders that live in Mesquite. City of Garland has vouchers, and their voucher holders live in Mesquite. That's a whole hour-long topic to explain the voucher program. We work with our housing agency has about 1,400 vouchers. Those that live in Mesquite, we work closely with environmental code and building inspection. So anytime there's a complaint and we cross-reference those lists, the person who's over that, in charge of that renter, can go and make contact. So we take it upon ourselves on the ones that are under our control. We hold them to a very high standard. And if there are problems in their neighborhood, we go out and address that directly through the housing agency. With City of Dallas, they're a little bit more reluctant to give us their information. Oh, Mr. No Shay's going to jump in.
Yeah, let me kind of talk through the housing voucher thing a little bit. I don't have to be as diplomatic as Cliff, because you guys can fire me at the next election. Housing, Section 8 housing vouchers, and Section 8 is probably the wrong way to describe it, because there's a number of different programs that are available to folks. But housing vouchers basically are portable. So I can qualify for a housing voucher in the City of Dallas, or the City of Garland, or the City of Allen. And I can take that housing voucher within any specified area that the federal government has specified, and I can go redeem that voucher for housing somewhere else, as long as that house qualifies as a house under the federal housing program, okay? So I can go qualify in Dallas where your values are significantly higher, and you will qualify for more, and then I can come redeem it for a house rental in the city of Mesquite and get a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. What we're having trouble with is when we have people who are under the Mesquite program and they redeem their voucher in Mesquite, we know the address that it's being redeemed for. So we can hold those landowners accountable for making sure that their property is maintained. The housing vouchers that are coming from other cities, those cities aren't willing to share the addresses at which those coupons or vouchers are being redeemed. So we don't know, unless they are registered through our rental inspection program, as to whether or not the house is a rental program, or is being rented, or is part of a housing voucher redemption type deal. So that's the difficulty that we have. The rental inspection programs help. Like anything, the people who want to cheat the system have figured out ways around it, where they just pay for the water. And because there's no water bill change, then it doesn't prompt the inspection. Staff is going to be bringing to us, hopefully within the next year, changes to that program to strengthen it, and we'll catch the people that are trying to undermine the system currently, and then they'll figure out another way to get around the system, and we'll start all over again. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Thank you for explaining that. But yes, ma'am.
Frequently, I'm Teresa Jackson from Sharing Life, and I'm here to represent the people who have those vouchers and explain to you that frequently the problem is not the rental at all, it's the slumlords who treat those people disrespectfully and do not provide adequate maintenance on their properties and charge them exorbitant fees for being late or various other things, and then they don't reinvest that money back into their properties. And it's unfair to always blame the voucher holder themselves, because often it is the slumlord who doesn't have a good business ethic.
I'll just summarize by saying that property maintenance is the homeowner and the occupant's responsibility. And you as a homeowner, if you continue to see a problem in your neighborhood, it shouldn't matter to you whether it's a Section 8 rental house or home occupied. What you should do is report that to us and let us go through our system and do our best to resolve those problems. We can't make good people, or we can't make people be better at their yard work, but we can at the very least go out there and try to solve the problem and get their attention. So, certainly.
And then I'll probably jerk your ear after this.
Please.
But one of my questions to you, though, is do you have anything that has to do with the customer, the way we feel that the city of Mesquite is giving good customer service, is when we do lodge complaints or infractions against property, I never hear back. Yes, I issued them a citation. Yes, this is their third citation. I mean, I don't hear anything back. I just see that nothing's done, and then I get very frustrated.
That is one of those customer service problems that we've become aware of. And part of the problem is that those inspectors are not only responding to the person who's called it in, but when they issue a notice, that phone call comes in. Our new system, and I put a lot of faith in this system. Right now we're working on something that was designed in 1984. So it's an old software system. The new software will be implemented in May, and you'll be able to go online and see these status. Is that correct, Raymond? So you'll be able to find out if a notice was issued, a citation was issued, all of that. And that, again, that's that constant improvement. I've handled calls like that many times before, and I understand your frustration. And again, we're trying to do our best to give you as much information as a homeowner. So. Yes, Sergio.
On the housing rental program, has an idea been put forth to add a schedule that the city could possibly, for example, every biannual, every 2 years, check the water service account and the person, the occupant of the household, to see if they match. That way, anybody who moves in and out that don't change their water account could be found.
As we upgrade our technology, again, that's a software issue that we do have the ability now to match those lists and begin to see those. And we are doing a better job of trying to find those out. Like Mr. Noche said, people will find a way. I don't want to discourage any other questions. I'll be happy to, like I said, city staff will be around all night. We've met our hour limit. And so I'd like to invite Mr. Noche and Mr. Casper back up to make some closing remarks. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Cliff. Hopefully you've seen some tremendous progress. Obviously, the fight isn't over. We still have tremendous strides to make on a whole variety of topics. And I don't know about you, but every time we went to a slide, I said, yeah, that's a top priority. Yeah, that's a top priority. Like, all of them are, right? And they're all difficult. And it's a multi-year battle to move the dial on any one of these topics. And I feel like because of new leadership that we have, because of some of the fresh faces on the council, on the school district, because we have new engagement from the community, I feel like we're kind of making up multi-year gaps of growth. But there's no doubt about it. We have a long way to go. And for me, the one that I'm really proud to focus on is public safety. The strides that have been made in that department alone are pretty breathtaking. And the chief, there he is. Did we fund every request that you had this past year? Except for one next year. And we didn't even get to talk about some of those really exciting programs like K-9 units and the different programs that we're going to have to really tackle the most difficult houses. You probably have a house like the one that was on a slide here that you're in a good neighborhood and you feel like you've paid your taxes and you've invested in your neighborhood for 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden the one on the corner is being boarded up and has a green swimming pool in the backyard just like that one did. And Well, all of a sudden, we're starting to take some proactive response here and solve some of these really difficult cases. And that goes to speak to the culture change, the vision change, and hopefully dialing up the aggression with some of the bad actors. And the question that the lady asked here in the back about her particular home, some of the cases are really difficult. And some of them are homeowners who are doing the very best they can. And then there's others who are trying to skirt the system, who are bad actors that we know are bad actors and don't want to reinvest in the property that they're making money on. And so we have to find a two-pronged approach. We have to figure out how can we use the stick when it's necessary, but also how can we have a carrot and be a community like that small town Mesquite that we like to brag about. How do we come together and solve some of those tough cases for the folks who might just need a helping hand? So those are kind of my thoughts. I'd be glad to stay after and talk about any one of these topics or ones that we didn't get to, and hopefully you have some goals that you should charge us with to do better on. So, Councilman O'Shea, your go.
Thank you. And every one of you should feel really good about yourself for tonight. This is impressive that you're here. You have a passion for your community, and I appreciate your investment in the community. There's a number of other ways that you can be involved in the community, and I think that engagement is critical as we move forward. As a community, we're facing a very difficult task. We're moving from what is traditionally a suburb into a growing metropolitan urban area, and that is quite a transition for this community. And we're doing it with systems from 1984. And so what we're experiencing, I think, are just growing pains for the popularity of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the business environment that's here, and we're really happy to be a great part of it, and glad that y'all are here tonight. There's going to be some exciting things that are happening in this community. There's a number of things that we've been talking about, and they're all game changers. And my hope is that they all come to fruition within the next few months, and we can begin making some great announcements. But we remain as one of the greatest retail corridors in the Metroplex, and that's a good thing, because what that means is that all the people that are visiting here to shop, they're the folks that are paying for some of our public safety officers. They're the folks that are paying for your fire protection. They're the folks that are helping pay for some of these city services that you're experiencing. But even with all of that being said and how great we're doing from a retail and sales tax standpoint, we owe a lot to you guys, and we answer to you. And so we'd like to hear from you. And Mr. Casper has his email on the city website. He has his phone number on the city website, and I think it's his mobile phone. I have my mobile phone on the city website. I have my email address on the city website. And those numbers and phone numbers and emails are there for a reason. Call us, email us, text us, Facebook us, Twitter us, Snapchat us, do whatever you need to do to get in touch with us. But please, let's keep communicating, and let's keep making Mesquite even better than it is today. Thanks for coming again tonight. Appreciate it.